it's really so nice to give me this opportunity, because I've got to the stage of actually trying to communicate what my thesis is about. And until I start to do it, I don't think I do know what it is about. It's a very different form of research than I'm used to in the past. And perhaps if I just put it in a context, I started a research program about 25 years ago as a psychologist, and I abandoned it. Still quite like the question I was exploring. But even in the place the size of Birmingham, I realised I couldn't get matched groups. You know, the usual things of you decide on your hypothesis, decide on what it is that you're going to, data you collect, and then you answer it. I wanted to look with people who had been doing quite a lot at that time on objectives-based teaching through DISTAR, those somewhat mature in our years, you might remember it. It was very, very high profile at the time, and I wanted to look at the teaching that was going on as a subsequence from that, and I was going to use probes for maths as it was. And it brought up so many problems for me. There is no such thing as a matched group. I don't know about you, but I'm the only one of me. When I start to think about what is it that's influencing my learning, and say what is influencing me, that's not necessarily going to have a matched group design. It actually doesn't work. Yeah, another problem that started to come up for me as well was that even I was trying to look at the changes in a very simple aspect of maths, which was just number bonds, and I started to realise using probes that, again, this actually didn't tell me a great deal about how they were actually evolving as mathematicians. So I abandoned it. But I've always had a passion for education. And as I'm getting towards the twilight of my years, I wanted to actually be able to offer something that might be my pebble on the beach. If I hold that everybody can actually develop talents and knowledge and offer them to themselves and others as gifts, then surely I should have that view of myself. Because otherwise I'm setting myself apart from everybody else, and that's a very strange thing to do. But I also suffer from the same problem I think was common in that culture, that as soon as you start to say, oh, I'm going to look at what I am doing, you sort of, I don't know about you, but I want to die with embarrassment. So it was problematic. Then I came across a form of understanding of research and educational knowledge that actually helped me considerably actually think of how I might actually look at what is it that I might want to be able to offer and create, offer as a gift. So that's what started me on my doctoral programme, was to try and keep the important as urgent and actually be able to do it within a disciplined manner. There was a rigour to it and a validity to it. So that had to do with my values as to what it is that I really wanted to do. I think it's important that everybody in my life is that it's not just about what I'm doing for myself, it's also what I'm contributing. I'm not separate, I'm part of what's going on. I think it would be easier for me to explain if I take you up a little bit with me, if you do this with me on that journey. So if you just think about what is it that's really important to you? What's the educational gift that you would like to be able to work on in the next few years to actually create and offer as your pebble on the beach or your pebble on the path? What's a really important thing for you? Why did you come into education? You're not here for the money. It helps pay the mortgage, but that only actually goes so far. You come in and you're gradually working more and more. You spend an inordinate amount of hours, a huge amount of stress that you create for yourselves. Why? What is it that you feel is really, really important to you? It's easier sometimes just to talk to somebody. So if I could just give you a couple of minutes to talk to the person next to you. What's really important to you as an educator?
Study no mates. Yeah.
No, in what respect?
They draw you together.
They don't.
Would anybody be prepared to share a little bit of their conversation? What's important to you?
You see, it's different. It's different from anything else.
We said that it was enabling other people to discover abilities, talents, discover potential in themselves, and understanding that. It's given the joy of seeing other people achieve.
Pleasure, that joy in the other, of them seeing themselves, and being able to express that.
We didn't have a united view because we were just talking about our opposite tree on the group. But I mean, for me, it's the removing of any blockers to realising potential. And Adrian and I, because he felt that there were blockers, we both recognised we actually, well, I was certainly free school meals, my father died when I was 10, no income at all, but I had a very brilliant way through that there were no blockers put in my way of going to the best universities and so on. And I can just see, whichever school I go into now, there are lots of sort of different sorts of things that get in the way, obstacles of pupils from disadvantaged free school meal homes, and that's my passion, to make sure that actually those are removed. But I don't think it's possible.
But it's those sort of things. Let's take me along that line as well. And I think each of us will express it in different ways because it's very personal. It comes from our histories and it comes from what it is that you're trying to realise. And it's a way of actually starting to research in a way that those are the explanatory principles. They help me to understand and explain why I do what I do. Not just what I do. I can run the Saturday workshops, which is part of the programme. When working with universities, can we put on various things? Can we actually make things happen for various kids in various ways? That's what we do. But why we do what we do is also very important. Because without that, no way of really understanding what's going on. Nothing in actually telling those stories is very, again, it can have a significant difference. Think about the things that have inspired you through your life, and other people's stories, as well as your own. So actually in communicating those, I think it both helps me improve my practice, and it might contribute a story that might help other people as well, as they help me. It's the difference between having things in straight lines and a conceptualisation of them, how we ask the question and the way we look at things, determine what it is that we find. And as a psychologist, I know that assessment and intervention are part and parcel of the same question. There's no way I can look at what is going on without actually influencing it. And it actually influences me. I find what I look for. You think of a phenomenal amount of things that have only been seen after somebody has said that they exist. Yeah? And then everybody. If you look in the sort of straight lines at the moment that we have, that I think particularly comes from social science, because they're mimicking some of the less helpful creative aspects of science methodologies, then you cannot get to that creative place. And education is about relationships, how you say, we're always trying to improve what we're doing. We're never going to, there is no such thing as perfect. It's a different place that you're in. So, moving from that sort of, if I use just that as a metaphor, the sort of approach to understanding what research would enable me to improve my practice and actually share my journey in a way that's meaningful. I think this is a better metaphor for me. What can you see? What do you see? There's no right or wrong answer, just what do you see? What do you see? Yeah?
Smoke-filled room.
Smoke-filled room.
Movement and colour.
Movement and colour.
Dancers.
Dancers. There's an energy. The only way we see that energy is with particles of smoke. You can't see the light. You can't see the other energy that is there, which is in the vectors, it's the heat. There's energy there, but how do you actually manage to see it? You know it's there, but having a different way of looking enables you both to see it, communicate it, and then we can actually start to work more coherently with how can we actually make that happen more. So when I'm very sad that they're actually trying to change the language again from talents and gifts, because I've been trying to re-own that with the values that they actually embody in those terms. And there are a few terms, apart from education itself, which is a values-laden word, that we've actually got. So how can I actually understand in using this sort of metaphor, actually researching this sort of one, which has actually taken me to researching a living theory research approach. What I'm trying to do is creating my educational theory. My living educational theory is the educational explanation of my influences, my learning, the learning of other people, and the learning of social formations. So what makes it educational? For me, has to do with values. How do I know that what I'm doing for youngsters is actually having the sort of influence that I want to have? If they go out with A stars and they have a nervous breakdown 2 years later, I think I would have phoned. It's not to say that tool skills are not important. John White asked this question on the QCLE side. How do we actually understand our success? If we say that our success is to be understood by kids going to Oxford and Cambridge, entering high income professions, it might be sort of the standards that you use, but it wasn't helpful to me. I can have people earning high wages. That doesn't tell me that actually I've been able to contribute towards their journey and their lives. And what you were saying about how can they realise their own passions, for me it's about how can I actually enable people to actually find what it is for them to live a loving, satisfying, productive and worthwhile life. One of the things that actually starts to move that on is starting to look at how we start to communicate that. Because again, we get what we look for. If we continually look for figures, they're very useful, but it's monitoring. For me, they're not part of that evaluation. So I started to look at what was it that I was starting to value? Why was it? How can I start to see what's being expressed there? So if I can give you an example. This is on a collaborative inquiry where there's about 30 people in the room. It was actually happened to be a maths one. And it was a session where one teacher, 4 kids from 5 schools came and worked with a mathematician.